Home appraisers caught on camera. One dream home, 6 different visits.
There's so many people who have no idea that their homes may have been appraised much lower than it actually is.
It's your biggest investment. Could your race cost you thousands?
If you haven't lived that life, you're going to be out of touch.
We need to be discussing these issues.
Our Face Racism series hits home. Your marketplace starts now. We're in Oakville, Ontario. Our team is preparing for a site check by a home appraiser. This house has 4+1 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms, and it's about 4,000 square feet with a finished basement. It even has a pool in the back. But what we really want to know, will the value of this home change with the race of the owner? We make a few small additions to the decor. Our hidden cameras are rolling. Close to 1 million home appraisals happen in Canada every year. They're critical for a mortgage or refinancing. And in some cases, people just want to know what their house is worth. That's what we're about to do. Hire home appraisers and compare their quotes. We booked 6 appraisals for the same rented house for our test and randomly assigned 2 appraisers to each type of homeowner: Black, South Asian, and white. We asked members of our CBC team to join me.
We have a bunch of stuff here. So these are kind of the items that we're going to be changing with each different family. These are your children.
Look how cute she is.
So we got pictures of kids. We got a poster going up in one of the children's bedrooms.
Got it.
And then we have some dolls here. We're just trying to give a sense of who lives here.
Due to the pandemic, we agreed to outside visits only and then send them pictures of what the home looks like inside. But first, let's meet Karen. Back in 2005, she changed mortgage companies and her home had to be appraised.
You can feel the look like, are you really living here? Like, what gives you the right to live in this house? That's the feeling that I got from that appraiser.
And she makes a prediction to her husband.
I said to him, I bet you our appraisal comes back really low.
Sure enough, the appraiser's estimate is much lower than similar homes in her neighborhood.
I said to the broker, this doesn't make sense that this would be this much. And I want another appraisal. I said to her, I think it's because we're Black. It's like, driving while Black, well, owning a house while Black.
So she demands another appraisal.
And that second appraisal comes back $100,000 higher, then something is wrong. Something is just not right.
You heard correctly, $100,000 difference between her first appraisal and her second one.
Are we still doing that offer in London?
Is Karen an isolated case? Realtor Chuku Yuzoro doesn't think so.
In one of the groups I'm part of, ACRES, it's an Afro-Canadian real estate society. I remember I reached out to some of the members to ask them about their experience when it comes to appraisals. And some of them were saying, yeah, definitely it has happened to me before.
It happened to Chuku, too, in 2018, when he was refinancing his home.
I got the news from my wife, and she was telling me the lady came inside. She just rushed right in, came back outside, stepped outside, and then she left.
The appraisal Chuku gets, less than he expected, even with extensive renovations. So he follows up with the company.
I was looking at the tone of the supervisor. I'm Canadian born, but I grew up in the Caribbean, so I have a Caribbean accent. And not to mention my name is Nigerian. So the reaction I got from this guy wasn't that, hey, you know what, this is a professional who's a broker who knows what he's talking about. It was just like there was some fool who's just trying to get a higher amount for no reason.
Chuku has another appraisal that's $50,000 higher. Back on hidden camera, it's time for our test. First day, and Stephanie meets our first appraiser.
You found it okay?
Yeah, I found it, no problem.
Excellent.
He chats with her for quite a while.
Like, there are built-in speakers.
Yep.
If that's a thing. Inside and then going to outside, so it plays when you're at the pool?
Yeah, those are the types of things that I might not see in the picture.
Right.
And then takes a look around.
Okay, thanks for that. Take care.
Good luck.
Bye.
Thanks.
More of the same from our second appraiser.
So, have you done any upgrades? You'll see the little sidewalk that's in that.
That concrete.
That concrete, yeah.
The interior finish are mostly from the builder.
That's from before.
He surveys the exterior and takes his $500 fee.
I got my measurements.
I'll grab you some cash.
That's it?
Yeah.
He's on his way. We send them photos of the interior to make their final assessment. Now it's time for the results. Our first appraisal comes in at 1.925. The second appraisal, a little lower, at 1.9 flat, a $25,000 difference. Interesting. Will we see the same variation with our South Asian homeowner, Serenity?
That's how it's gonna look.
Day 2, and her appraisals are in full swing.
Which is the best way to the backyard?
If you just kind of go around where the garage is, there's a door, you'll be able to unlock it.
Compared to Stephanie's appraisals, the first guy takes just 4 minutes to finish the job. Seems like each person has their own way of doing things.
You guys just send me the photos.
Yeah, definitely.
The second appraiser gets straight to work, doesn't even ring the doorbell.
Good to see you. Okay, and then that's it. Maybe 5. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Time for Serenity's results. Her first appraisal checks in at 1.915. The second, 1.85, a difference of $65,000. That's a bigger variation than the white homeowner. Could this be a sign of racial bias? Discrimination in appraisals is making headlines stateside, with many African Americans calling it out.
So it appraised for 1.482.
Yeah.
Which was 50% more than what it appraised for by a couple weeks prior.
Almost 1.5, $500,000 more.
Just having my husband be in the house by himself and taking down all evidence that he has a Black family.
The issue even caught the attention of then candidate and now President Joe Biden.
Same exact home. Your home will start off being valued 29% less than my home.
Professor Junia Howell studies discrimination in the American appraisal industry.
While it might look and manifest slightly differently in different areas, depending on what racial groups live there, again and again, we see that white spaces are evaluated as worth more, as more desirable, as more marketable. There are so many parallels between Canada's appraisal industry and the United States. It's really hard for me to believe that there isn't a lot of racial bias in appraisals in Canada.
Now I step into the role of our third homeowner. I alter my appearance and throw on a pair of glasses with a hidden camera.
They're actually quite nice glasses.
I get familiar with my new home. How will my appraisals compare with the others?
Hi, how's it going? I'm the appraisal guy.
We're about to find out.
You are the owner?
Yeah.
You are not.
Share your home appraisal story. Marketplace at cbc.ca. This is your marketplace. We're testing racial bias in home appraisals. So far, the appraisers meet our white homeowner, Stephanie, and our South Asian homeowner, Serenity. Now they're meeting me, our Black homeowner.
Oh, okay. Hi.
He inspects the exterior of the home, but when he gets to the backyard...
How many bathrooms in the second floor? 2?
That's right.
2 full bathroom?
That's right.
His tone is different than the others. Then this happens.
And you are the owner?
Yeah.
You are not.
Yes.
He asks me twice if I'm the homeowner. That didn't happen to anyone else.
I need the interior photo. So
Okay. We'll send them.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Bye.
We send the interior photos. And the quote? $1.7 million, the lowest appraisal in our test. Now for our final appraisal.
Which side I should?
So you should go this side, and I'll open it up.
All right. Thank you.
He takes a look around and we chat about the house.
So you bought it brand new. So any other improvements you did?
Yes, the pool is also something that we upgraded. We actually put that in, and
Okay.
Yeah,
so
back in
and,
2017. And the light fixtures, just a couple of years ago, we put these light fixtures in.
Upgraded light fixtures. Okay.
And he's off.
Okay, so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
But get this, my second appraisal comes in at a high of $2,050,000, which is $350,000 more than the first one, for the same house, on the same day. That's the largest difference in our test. And it's similar to what Karen experienced when she demanded a second appraisal and got a much higher amount. Thing is, some people take the first quote at face value. They don't know that they can ask for a second appraisal.
I think about that. What other opportunities for other people have been lost?
Bottom line, if you suspect your home appraisal is too low, it might be worth fighting for another opinion. We share our results with our expert, Junia Howell.
The first appraisal came in at 1.7. The second appraisal came in at just over 2 million.
That enormous variation right in there in and of itself is a problem. $350,000, that is enormous.
And even though one of the estimates for the Black homeowner is the highest in our test, the average is still the lowest of all 3 homeowners.
This matters so much that I think as a society, again, for all of us, we need more standardization here because the variability allows for more bias than is really desirable or acceptable.
All of the appraisers in our test fall under the Appraisal Institute of Canada, so we take our results to its CEO, Keith Landcastle.
I think to suggest that biases don't exist would not be candid, would not be honest.
We start with our white homeowner.
25,000 variance. Your thoughts?
Entirely reasonable.
Then our South Asian homeowner.
You're looking at $65,000 difference there.
On nearly 2 million, it's certainly not it's not a significant difference.
Some people might argue that's still a lot of money. Then we tell them about what happened to me, our Black homeowner.
That's $350,000 of a difference between the first appraisal and the second one. Mind-blowing.
We would really need to look at the appraisal reports side by side and look at the assumptions that the individuals relied upon in arriving at their opinion of value.
I just don't know how that could be rationalized or how you could even compare them and say that this is a legitimate reason why there's this big of a difference.
We did look at some of the individual reports, and there are some differences that could, I'm not saying they did, that could have influenced a difference in value, even one that's significant. But I would say as well, though, that some appraisers will be more conservative in the values that they arrive at day in, day out, than others that might be more aggressive.
But what do you say to some in the BIPOC community and the Black community who will look at our test results and say that is definitely racial bias?
We acknowledge that there are biases in our society, and we have to work to be better. From the outside looking in, it is troubling that one would be so much lower than all of the others. But I don't know that it's a fair statement to suggest that you can directly draw a line between that and the race of the homeowner.
Keith adds the Institute has received only one complaint about racial bias in more than a decade. While we debate the results, someone else is listening in. It's been more than 2 years since Chuku Yuzoro's appraisal came back about 50 grand lower than expected. He's finally getting his chance to face the industry.
I'm wondering if you'd be willing to speak with him and hear his concerns.
Absolutely.
So we have Black homeowners who are actually taking out any sort of influence that there are actually Black people living in the house before the appraisals are even coming in, because they all know in the back of their minds that bias does have an effect. And maybe one of the reasons why you aren't hearing so many of the complaints that are coming in is because we don't know who to complain to.
That is a very discouraging thing to hear. That's why we've struck our Council on Diversity, to help make sure that collectively the real estate sector is able to work better and not be influenced by biases like this.
I'm really hoping that we reach out to other groups or community groups so we can actually tell you or give you guys some guidance. If you haven't lived that life, you haven't experienced it, you're going to be out of touch and nothing's going to change. Take the problem of bias seriously. It really does impact us.
We need to be discussing these issues. We can't just pretend they're not happening. We certainly encourage people to submit complaints if they have concerns with an appraisal. If our members do make a mistake that causes a financial impact, there is an insurance program in place to help make sure that those people are made whole.
Were you happy with his responses?
I understand his position, but at the same time, it makes me upset, to be really honest, because there's so many people who have no idea that their homes may have been appraised much lower than it actually is. And I'm thinking about the potential, the what ifs. That could be your retirement savings. That could have been your vacation home.
You gonna follow up with AIC and Keith?
Oh, Keith is gonna be my new best friend.
Have a complaint about your home appraisal? The AIC wants to hear from you. Check out their website or email them, info@aicanada.ca.